everyone, my name is Jackie. I work over at Simply Street Bikes on Eden Prairie, Minnesota, and today I am going to be talking to you guys about the brand new Shoei RF 1400. That's going to be this one over here. It's the matte blue one, which actually matte blue traditionally was not offered in the RF line, so this is actually a really snazzy color that they finally brought into their sport touring getup. So the helmet that I've got next to it here is the RF 1200. Now anybody who's been in the helmet GRU industry for a while has known that for the past 7 years, this has been the helmet. Sub $500, sport touring, track, whatever kind of bike you've got, it's amazing for it. It's quiet, it's light, it's got amazing ventilation. So for 7 years, they had this helmet and everyone was kind of wondering recently, okay, it's been 7 years now, are they ever going to update it? Well, Shoei finally has done the update, the RF 1400, and they kind of followed the train of thought that if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Honestly, the RF 1400 is very, very, very similar to the RF 12. At first glance, you can see a couple of changes. I mean, for one, it does have a slightly sportier look to it than the 1200 does. It looks a little more similar to the GTR at the same time, so while it is sporty, it still follows that sport touring lineup. You'll notice along the visor as well, these are just right here are those Vortex generators that you see coming stock with their track-ready helmet, the X14. These Vortex generators, what they do is that they help generate a little more lift by redirecting air currents, but at the same time, they reduce turbulence. So you're going to get a little less drag, a little less resistance, while at the same time, because of the increased lift, it also is going to feel lighter as well when you're hitting some of those higher speeds, which is very convenient because the downside to this helmet is that it is just a little bit heavier than its predecessor. Now it is only 3 ounces heavier. Now the reason why they did that is because if you guys are up to date on Sharp ratings out in Europe, the RF 1200 in Europe, what it scored safety-wise, now this is a snail-approved helmet, so it's built for those ultimate level crashes, but the RF 1200 did score a little poorly along these areas right here in the EPS liner. So even though it is snail-approved, even Sharp was like, it could be a little stronger along here. So in the 1400, it is along these sides here that they have a little bit extra EPS liner to make it stronger in its #1 weak spot. And additionally to that is going to create a little more snug fit along here. In addition to that, this red piece that you see right here, what this is doing is that it's also raising the cheek pads up in the back and in the front. So it's going to create a significantly more snug fit. Now, anybody who's been in a brand new properly fitted helmet knows that a snug fit on these is incredibly snug, almost uncomfortably so. But when you're first putting on that helmet down here, the reason why you want that snugness is A, for safety, but B, for quietness. A lot of your wind noise comes up from here. So by having it in a much more closed in section for the 14, they're going to have even greater noise reduction. So this helmet's going to be a little bit quieter. Even with it being a little bit heavier, it's going to perform a lot lighter. And the other big thing is that it's going to have better ventilation. For one, they did make the ventilation port down the bottom here and up in the top here much bigger than in the original. And additionally too, if we pop her open, you'll notice along here that they have additional ventilation coming in from the sides on the inside. So the beauty of that is that A, it's going to help a little more with anti-fog, but also give you a much more evenly distributed ventilation through the front. As opposed to, as you can see on the 12, they just have it right through here. So better ventilation, more noise reduction. Now, one thing that they'll market is that it is going to be a little more finger friendly. So using these vents is going to be a little bit easier. As you can see on the 12, they have really small pieces, very rounded pieces that make it very hard to open and close the vents. So the 14, I will admit, is easier to use than the 12. But admittedly, that is something I'd still like to see from Shoei, something that's a little more glove friendly, because with my hands, I am still struggling to open and close this. Now, if I'm wearing gloves or heaven forbid winter gloves, that's gonna make it worse. So very last thing I wanna point out, one thing that people talk about a lot with the 1200 is the ability to close the ventilation in the back. The 14, as you can see, they lost that ability, although the vent back here is bigger for exhaust. Honestly, the ability to close this back port on the 1200 was really only big for people who are riding in extremely cold temperatures, which most of us aren't. Because as long as you've got these front vents closed, there is no airflow coming through here. So for most riders, as long as you've got this closed up, it doesn't matter what exhaust there is. But for those of us who ride in extreme cold, being able to close this up is going to make a nice pocket of warmth. So that is the only real big difference, but at the same time, it wasn't something that was really used in the 1200 in the first place, so it's not a huge loss. And with the very last comment of that anti-fog that I mentioned before, with having ventilation distributed through here, the other big thing with the 1400 is that did come with a bigger pin lock. The 12, the pin lock tends to stop right along here. But the 14, it sweeps all the way back and covers the entire eye port. So for those of you who are complaining about fog on the sides or in the upper and lower regions, I got you covered on that. All right, so that's pretty much everything on the RF 1400. We do have a full-size one of these kids in stock, so if you want to come in, check them out, see how they fit, we can walk you through that, tell you what's good and what's not good. And even though this is an intermediate oval, I have actually seen the 1200 fit a lot of different variety of head shapes. I've even seen a couple of round oval guys fit fairly nicely into this. So yeah, come check it out. It doesn't hurt, and if nothing else, we can always help you figure out what's best for you. But yeah, anyways, that's pretty much it. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.